Jeff Paterson joins us from Rogers Arena. There's an awful lot of posting.
Arena noise.
Yeah,
yes.
from practice. How we doing, Jeff? What have you seen at practice?
Well, I can't see the ice as I'm perched here, set up. I tried to get the backdrop behind me so that it had a little bit of flair to it, but two goaltenders out there. Artur Silovs, as we knew earlier in the day, had been recalled by the Vancouver Canucks, and I suppose the other surprise was that Tyler Myers is back on the ice, has missed the 4 games during the win streak. I know some people are trying to draw a through line there. He is an extra along with Mark Friedman, so I don't think that he's ready to return. And again, with his schedule in the month of March, they have this luxury that they can get guys the practice days that they need to get up and running before they have to make a decision on, what is their optimal 6 when it comes to defense. And they will have some decisions to make, but it doesn't look like there will be one ahead of the game against Colorado on Wednesday night.
I saw the @Rinkwide Van poll question yesterday on which goaltender to recall, Silovs or Tolopilo. Are you at all surprised that it is Silovs given Tolopilo's recent run of play?
I'm not. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've got the full book on Nikita Tolopilo. I have seen him through development camp and training camp and have watched from afar. And, he looks like he's developing. And I think that they think that they've got something there. But I think you have to keep in mind, guys, not only did Artur Silovs play 5 games in the National Hockey League last year, he played 5 games for Rick Tocchet. Rick Tocchet was the head coach when Silovs was recalled. And I think that there is just that familiarity. Now, again, the way the games are spaced here, I don't think that Artur Silovs is likely to see any game action, certainly in the foreseeable future. Now, if Casey DeSmith has some wobbles and they feel that they've got to go somewhere else, the way that, and this is night and day from last year. Last year, they couldn't get a save, right? They tried to run with Spencer Martin and Colin Delia, and it just wasn't happening. Season was getting away from them, and I think they felt that it was time to try a third option and just see what they had in Artur Silovs. And obviously we know what he did at the World Championship last year. And so I just think all of that, the fact that he's seen the NHL, that he has touched the NHL, that he's played in front of this coach knows him and has a sense. Now, I think Ian Clark would have had a huge say in the ultimate decision on who to bring up here, but I'm not surprised that it is Artur Silovs, who's had a strange year. And I know a lot of people have pointed to the fact that maybe Tolopilo has taken the starter's job down in Abbotsford. Silovs has 15 wins. 4 of them have been by shutout. Like when it's, feast or famine. When he's on, clearly he's in lockdown mode, but there have been some tough nights, and a lot of people point to the goal from center a couple of weeks ago that got past him, and obviously you don't want to see that from a goaltender.
Let me just ask you this, because you're a master at this. In terms of a Silovs start, if there were to be one, Jeff, are you looking at that Buffalo-Montreal do-si-do next Tuesday, Thursday? Would that be the most optimal spot to get Silovs a game?
Outside of the conclusion of the homestand against Anaheim, I suppose. And so I think it's wait and see. I mean, let's see. This is an opportunity for Casey DeSmith, who had an 8-game run last year for the Pittsburgh Penguins, had a couple of 4-game runs as well. He's done this before. And the way the schedule is spaced out, it's not like there are 4 and 6 where you're, running the risk of turning him into dust. That they have the luxury here of game days for DeSmith if he needs some time off. I mean, he should be well rested. He's been the backup and he hasn't played much of late. So, I'm going to say I don't have a date for Artur Silovs penciled in. I think this is Casey DeSmith's run right now. And we'll see how he fares against the Colorado Avalanche, getting thrown right into it. I know the Avs are playing tonight in Calgary, but they also have this Nathan McKinnon fellow who leads the National Hockey League in scoring. So there's the challenge front and center. But once they get past the Avs, then, more days off here. Washington, obviously, scuffling along, not going to be a playoff team. And then you get Buffalo and Montreal. So, between the opponents, the level of the opponents, and the scheduling and the spacing, I think it sets up for Casey DeSmith. If he holds up his end of the bargain, he can certainly run with the ball here for the next 4 or 5. Then it picks up again with games against Los Angeles and Dallas. And, we'll see where Demko is in his recovery. We'll see where DeSmith is ultimately in the way that he's performing. And if they have to get a game in, then, maybe that is one of the opportunities. I think it's really important, too, guys, that Casey DeSmith has given up 1 goal in his last 90 minutes of game action. The 2-1 victory in Anaheim, and then, he wasn't tested a lot, 10 shots by Winnipeg the other night, but did his job's to stop the puck, and he stopped all the ones that came his way and was part of the shutout with Thatcher Demko. So, I think he can move on now and turn the page from the 8 that he gave up in the 10-7 loss in Minnesota. And I think it was important that he got the win in Anaheim and then, coming in cold against a good Winnipeg team the other night and did his part there. So he should feel pretty good about his game as he gets set to step in as the de facto starter here for the next, 2, 3, hopefully not more than 3 weeks.
Timing seems perfect for the team too, doesn't it? In terms of they seem ready to support the backup goaltender getting a promotion right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've given up 3 goals in the last 4 games on this win streak. They have rediscovered the staples that Rick Tocchet has been harping on. And I think a huge part of that has been discipline and the fact that they've been shorthanded once in each of the 4 games on the win streak. And Tocchet's spoken about that a couple of times here lately, that it allows him to get all 4 lines rolling. It allows him to get guys into the games that you're not leaning on your penalty killers in high leverage situations. And so guys are fresh. And I think you saw it in the first period against Winnipeg. Like, they were really short shifts. The Canucks were trying to, change every 30 seconds and just get the Jets had played the night before in Seattle. And I think the Canucks wanted to pounce on them. And so part of the strategy, you've heard Rick Tocchet, when his team is off, a lot of times he points to, how well or poorly they change. But I just thought that first period the other night was as good as the Canucks have looked in a long, long time. And even if Winnipeg hadn't played the night before, I don't know that they stood a chance. The Canucks looked that determined, and to get 5 on Connor Hellebuyck, obviously, was a bonus for them. But yes, I think that sometimes just the presence of the backup is that snap to attention that teams need. But for the Vancouver Canucks, they're in a bit of a groove defensively. And I think this time off, fresh and rested, they should be ready to at least counter whatever Colorado throws their way on Wednesday
don't
night.
change anything if you're the Canucks defensively. Now, we say that, although I think they would be happy to get Myers in. There's a chance they could put him in the game day skate tomorrow, but as you say, he's an extra now. Probably means he skips this one, but then they get another practice day, you'd think, later on in the week, so he shapes up nicely for the Capitals game, at least on the weekend. Any sign of Dakota Joshua? He's LTIR'd. Is he still around the team? Are we talking days, or do you still think this might be some time for Dakota Joshua?
Yeah, I mean, the most recent update we had was Patrick Allvin after the trade deadline, who said 10 days to 2 weeks then. That was Friday, so we've advanced a handful of days through the weekend. I haven't seen him, and that's the troubling part, is out on the road trip, that road trip where they went to Minnesota and Colorado and Seattle, the Mentors trip, he was there. His brother was on that trip, and so he went out on the trip, and he and Carson Soucy skated a couple of times. I saw him skate in Seattle, the morning skate after the group had left the ice, and that all looked really promising to me and encouraging. And then they came back home. There was a practice day where he sat on the bench in sweats and watched, but I hope that he is skating on his own. Again, a hand injury, kind of like Carson Soucy. He should be able to skate with the skills coaches before practice, but I think LTIR, that was a retroactive move just because he had been out long enough that he could be placed on LTIR, and that frees up a little bit of space, and every dollar matters, so that they can get,
Silovs up, first of all,
or whatever else they want to do moving forward. So I think that was really just procedural when it came to Dakota Joshua. But somebody had told me that he was going to go on this past road trip, the Anaheim, Los Angeles, Vegas one, and he didn't do that. So I don't know if there's been a setback. I'm not sure what kind of setback you could have with a hand or a knuckle injury. But the bottom line is it's been a month. I mean, they said week to week. We're at 4 weeks now, and he's not part of the practice group here. So I kind of thought maybe we would see him out there, even if it was in a non-contact jersey. But
that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
Jeff, what kind of setback can you have with that injury? Pearson, Tanner.
Yeah, well,
let's hope not. Just before we let you go, because you got players and coaches to interview, we had a pretty good debate here. Do you think this Thatcher Demko injury scuttles his Vezina chances?
I don't think that he was likely to win the Vezina, so I think it probably closes the book on any sort of late season push that he may have made here. I just think when you look at the Winnipeg Jets, they got a lot of firepower, but a bit of a patchwork defense outside of Josh Morrissey, and yet they are one of the best defensive teams in the National Hockey League, and so much of that is their goaltending. And it's not just Connor Hellebuyck. Laurent Brossoit has been terrific too when they've turned to their backup. But Hellebuyck had a run there, guys, from early November through some point in March where he didn't give up more than 3 goals in a game. This is the NHL. Goals get scored. And, he is, in my mind, the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. Now, that's not to suggest that Thatcher Demko doesn't deserve to be in the conversation. I just think that Hellebuyck had started to distance himself. Demko was terrific in the first 6 weeks or so, and then I know that some of the underlying numbers suggested that there had been a little bit of slippage in his play. He's been terrific for the Vancouver Canucks, and it's unfortunate, obviously, that he's not going to be there and available to them every night, but I do think in some ways this is a little bit of a blessing in disguise. It's a forced rest, if you will. When we learned that it wasn't catastrophic and it wasn't going to be season-ending, that I think rest is maybe the best thing possible for Thatcher Demko, knowing the way the schedule works, and they play. I mean, the regular season goes till the third week of April.
We just talked about it. Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to get some time there. And so, I think for my money, it was a 2-horse race, but even at that, Hellebuyck had started to distance himself from Thatcher Demko. So again, it doesn't discount anything that Demko has done here this season, much as like Quinn Hughes last year, was the second best defenseman in the National Hockey League. He didn't win the Norris, but he still had a hell of a season putting up 76 points. And I think it's sort of that same thing here. There's no shame if you come second and the runner-up to Connor Hellebuyck in the Vezina Derby. But I do think that, Demko would have had to go lights out here over the final however many games, 10 or 12 starts, and he's not going to get that opportunity now.
Great stuff, Jeff. We'll let you get to covering practice. Thank you for this, and we'll catch up Friday.
All right, guys. Thanks.
J. Pat, our Canucks reporter, host, Rink-Wide Vancouver. Boy, saying that it's as much a forced rest, that's a lot happier than out a month. We'll see.
Well, I have wondered, like the 2 to 4 week timeline that was given.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 2 weeks if Casey DeSmith stumbles? Is it 4 weeks if everything's going just fine?
Right. If Edmonton creeps too close, then guess what? It's a 2-week injury.
Yeah.
If there's still cushion, maybe it's a 4-week injury.
Yeah, I mean, there's some logic to that. And that doesn't mean rush him back, folks. That's not what I'm suggesting. But there's always that point where you're not going to do damage. Maybe it's pain management, and you want to put the guy through that if everything's going tickety-boo with Casey DeSmith.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the results might help pave the way. And the best thing for the organization and really everybody involved is for Casey DeSmith to play really, really well. And that'll only do Casey DeSmith favors in the offseason and for the team to get some wins.
As for Demko's Vezina candidacy, I'm not quite as down on it as perhaps Jeff was.
No, I'm not either.
But I'm also not as bullish on it going forward from here. Like, I think he needs to play a good number of games and be extraordinary if he's got any chance at this point.
I mean, if he played 4 games but got a shutout or 2, I think he's still very much in the mix. I mean, those wins and those shutouts are going to be top of mind.
I think it's got to be more along the lines of like a 6 and 8 game sample, which means he's back on the early end of that 2 to 4 weeks, and he's exceptional from the jump when he does get back.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.